And now, ladies and gentlemen, we continue the presentations with the CEO, Televic Group, Belgium, with a conversation about innovation and the key to business growth. Please welcome Lieven Danneels.
Hello, everybody. I hope I still can get a bit of your span of attention because it has been a long morning with a lot of speakers. But first, let me introduce myself because I'm talking here with two hats. I'm talking with the hat of an entrepreneur. I'm CEO of Televic, and I will come back to Televic a little bit later. But I'm also chair of, in fact, of a council on innovation and entrepreneurship for a region in Belgium, Flanders. Innovation is a regional matter where we do policy advising for our government, what they should do to stimulate innovation and entrepreneurship. So I want to share some of this stuff with you as well, because like the previous speaker said, I think a lot of things for companies, SMEs, are the same across the world, and maybe there is some new ideas that you can get from there. So I was a chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, the largest chamber of Belgium, where I knew also the interaction of politics and business. And I'm also a board member of IMEC, and IMEC is the world's most performant institute on silicon, so on microprocessors and nanotechnology, and that's important because that also shows a bit the way I think and look at the future. So I will address 2 points from a macro point, the government perspective, and then from a company entrepreneur Televic perspective. So innovation is key, and I think innovation, it's underrated. I believe that innovation is one of the key things that pushes our society forward. Innovation is the creation of new capacities for wealth creation, that's the definition. Entrepreneurship is the exploitation of these capacities. And innovation means introducing something new. And if you look at research, there has never been so much money spent on research in this world since the start of science. So it's extremely, extremely important. And entrepreneurship is making a great idea that mostly comes from an innovative idea into a business opportunity by taking risk. And entrepreneurship is risk. So valorization is incredibly important. Yeah? So innovation contributes to the economical competitiveness of a region and a capacity to solve problems. And there we can make a link to the SDGs. It has been mentioned as well this morning here, which is a very beautiful framework. And I think that every company, every government should embrace it. Unfortunately, in Europe, the European Parliament is preparing a lot of reporting rules on SDG for SMEs that will do no good. They should see the SDGs really as an opportunity and not as something where you just should report on and which will make only consultants rich and not the companies. So innovation and entrepreneurship, I cannot stress enough, and you see here examples, entrepreneurship is key to the development of a region, but I think that has been said already before. And then when we look from this council of innovation and entrepreneurship, what we do, and it has been mentioned, the previous speaker said you need to benchmark. Yeah, benchmark, he said Vietnam, he said Bangladesh. And by the way, we are going to invest in Vietnam. Yeah, I'm going there in 2 weeks, but we're also going to invest in Ghana. So that's a good thing together with our partner, African Bagg, where we do a lot of things here. But here you see interesting stuff on R&D intensity. And in Europe, they have the Lisbon norm, that 3% of the GDP is spent on R&D. And we are there, and if you look in the world, who are the countries that spend most on innovation, or mostly also those countries that are the most competitive. And it should not come as a surprise that you see that on the right graph is that the US is still spending most, then China, rapidly catching up, and then EU, and then there's another countries like Japan, and so on and so forth. But there is a direct link between innovation and economic success. Yeah? So I think it's important to see how your region is performing. Now I look to Flanders, Belgium. What we do is we look at Europe, of course, yeah, because that is our main market, and we compare with who? With Holland, yeah, certain parts of Holland, Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, Finland. Everybody knows that. And then Switzerland. Switzerland is the most innovative country in Europe. And it's also one of the most economical performant regions. And I think the same thing, we made the ambition in Flanders that we say we want to belong to the top 5 innovative regions in Europe. We're now at place, I don't know, 26. We still have a way to go. But I think the same thing your government should ask themselves. Where do you want to be? Yeah? And to be in a top of an innovative region, I think there's a number of things that are across the world. And that's learning. Like together with African Bagg, we're investing here a lot in training of people, in education and so on and so forth. STEM. But STEM, not only STEM, we are also introducing STEM curricula into non-STEM curricula, like humanities. They're getting more and more courses on STEM, especially AI and so on and so forth. Ambitious, growth-oriented entrepreneurs. Growth-oriented entrepreneurs is key. If you're in a business and you say, I don't want to grow, I think you're not a real entrepreneur. Yeah? The impact of public R&D, very important. Government should stimulate R&D. A stable, business-friendly government. I think rule of law, and it was mentioned as well, Vietnam, why are companies, why are we looking at Vietnam? Because we believe it's stable. For example, we're decreasing the investments in China. Why? Because politically we don't feel sure about our investments. And open to the world, I think that's key, especially also for, somebody said it, Ghana is not the biggest country in Africa. Open to the world, I really believe, and that was also the previous speakers that said, the more open you are, I think the more competitive you become. So how can you boost your innovation power? I think build on your strengths, that was said as well. And the same will apply for the company, you will see that. What are the societal and technological challenges? The SDGs can help you. Combine challenges with strengths, absolutely important. Focus your efforts. What are potential scenarios for the future? The common vision, because you can, the person of AFTC, and it's very difficult to pronounce, the Free Trade Organization for Africa. I think you should find another name, because it's difficult to pronounce. But what is the common vision on the future? Triple helix, that's where government, universities, academics, and industry, that's a basic concept on innovation and entrepreneurship, I think. And think ecosystem, that was mentioned as well, but I think also those companies of the future are those that can think in ecosystems, because you can't do everything yourself. Yeah? So think about your innovation power in Ghana, but that was said within the region. I heard that ECOWAS is not so important. It's more now the African Free Trade Organization that will take the lead within Africa and within the world. That has been said. I should not go into detail. But the government perspective is extremely important, because they should create a frame. And if they don't create a framework, then businesses have difficulties. That's the message we keep giving to our government. Some governments listen to it, some, like a lot of problems we have in Europe right now on the energy, I think it's a little bit due to the fact that politicians thought they could do everything and didn't listen to the real economical life. So then, that was the first part on government, then secondly on the business. So Televic, so what do? We are a technology company, and we make critical communication systems. It's systems for a number of niche markets. Conference, education, which we do here together with African Bagg in Ghana and in West Africa, healthcare and rail, but it's communication systems, very technological. We are a global company. We're about 1,000 people direct employment, because we work a lot with subcontractors as well. A little bit more than 150 million turnover, and across the world. We're in the US, we're in China, we're in India, in Europe, and now we will invest in Ghana and in Vietnam as well. So that gives a nice perspective. Some references to show what kind of people work with our systems. It's the NATO. Everybody knows the NATO, and we know with the Ukraine war, I think you know it. State Department in the US is using our products, the European Commission. The UN, you see there the big hall in the UN in Geneva. We do communication systems on trains. In hospitals, 9 out of 10 hospitals in Belgium work with us. And then upper right, you see our Queen and our Prime Minister on a visit to Ghana, where we equipped a number of schools, again, together with African Bagg. So across the world with some very high level. I bought the company 25 years ago together with a business partner. We were about 80 people at that time, so now we're about 1,000 people. We did 8 million euro sales, so we built the company over the years. And how did we do that? I think that's a good thing to share, because these things remain, I think, valid. The old techniques, like I would say, still apply. And one key thing I always say is this product-market combination. Know what product you're making for which market. There has to be a fit. It looks very simple. Well, it's not, because it's all about focus. And entrepreneurs, we are opportunity seekers. When we see an opportunity, we go after it. Yeah? And I think everybody can recognize that. But keep your focus. I think focus is a key to success. The typical things like SWOT, everybody knows it. Do it, not every year, but every so many years. The Porter 5 Forces, it's a very powerful instrument. Just basic things to say, okay, where am I? Are there any threats coming towards us? How is the market evolving, and so on and so forth. That's one I really like. It's a Wiersma Tracy business strategy model, because that's also about focus. And you have, to them, the two professors, they say product leadership, customer intimacy, operational excellence. I will not explain it in detail. If people are interested, they can find it on the internet. But you should choose one. Of course, on the other ones, you should reach the Olympic minimum. But if you choose one, stick to it. We chose product leadership in Televic, and it helped us a lot in developing our business, because technology for us is a key thing. Yeah? So that's the thing we did in the past. We built a company on. So then all these things, like it was already mentioned, COVID comes, Ukraine comes, whatever comes next. I always say we live in VUCA times, and VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I think, especially for me, the uncertainty is key. You cannot make predictions. But on the other hand, I say prepare, and that is something I stole from, by the way, from a famous Belgian technologist. He wrote a book, and he said the book was called With the Digitization of Society, Going Digital. He said that's the new norm. And then 2 weeks ago, he was in our company giving a presentation. And he said, in fact, that's a bad title. It should not be the prepare for the new normal, prepare for the never normal, because things will never be the same. I'm really convinced. Yeah? On the other hand, Peter Drucker said the best way is to predict the future is to create it. So how do you cope with this? And I think for us, the values are key. The values, we always say we have our vision. We want to be number one by technological leadership in our niche markets, and the way we want to do this are our values: agility, sustainability, no nonsense, and innovation. And I will take two of them, innovation and leadership, because these are the things, and leadership for me is kind of agility. Yeah? Innovation, I come back to it because it's so important. And there I believe we're in a technology business, and I wanted to share that with you. I think you ain't seen nothing yet. We're talking about digitization, but we're going much further. And let me share you some slides on the digital age. I think this is key to understand what is happening in the digital space. First of all, everybody knows Moore's law, that the microprocessor double in capacity and decrease in price every so many years. The thing is that microchip sensors are becoming smaller and smaller, cheaper and cheaper, more powerful and powerful. So instead of having one device, like a camera, costing so much money, you can put 10 because they're getting so much cheaper. A nice example on that was in the IMEC Institute. They had a radar of 72 gigahertz, $20,000. Infineon, everybody knows the chip maker Infineon, they made a chip of $100, the same thing, 72 gigahertz. So you see putting devices everywhere in the world, millions, trillions of devices, and you see also there are graphs about it that is ongoing, self-driving cars, and so on and so forth. They need so many sensors, so many processors. And that's, by the way, also one of the reasons there was this big crisis in the component business for those who are in the electronics industry. Yeah? And then all these devices are connected. Yeah? They're intelligent, but they can connect. So all this information is available. And this connectivity is key. If I would say, Ghana, do something, I would say invest not in 5G, start investing in 6G. That will be rolled out in 2028, by the way. That's going to be a game changer. Read my lips. Yeah? So accessible big data. And then, of course, when it doesn't matter where the information is gathered, you can put it everywhere. You are in the cloud. And there you have unlimited compute power. People even talking about quantum computing, which will even be a step further. So ubiquitous compute and storage. And that makes, and that's another graph to show this evolution. That's just a memory chip. So you see in 2005, 120 mega. You go 10 years later, 1,000 times bigger, but then 2 years double, another 3 years, you go to terabytes. Imagine what's happening, and it doesn't stop. Yeah? And so I think data science, AI, is really the differentiator. If we're talking about digitization, I don't talk about digitization, I don't talk about AI, I talk about data science, because it's going to matter a lot. Know your customers, and you can do that by gathering their data and by trying to find solutions and work with it. So I really believe these are key drivers for our market. And I have here another slide. AI will not replace physicians. However, physicians who use AI will replace those who don't. And the same, mutatis mutandis, they say in Latin, goes for your companies. Those companies that use AI will replace your competitors that don't use AI. And another interesting slide is 66% of the children, and we have been talking here about capacity building and so on and so forth, 66% of the children who start school today will do a job later on in their lives that does not exist today. So the importance of education with skill sets and so on and so forth, and basic skill sets are really important. So my advice is change your paradigms. Keep using frameworks, like I just said. I really believe they're powerful. I learned them in a business school, and that's also the importance. A lot of Flemish business people were trained in the same business school that came up with all these frameworks, and it really helped to boost, because Flanders is one of the richest regions in Europe. We have unemployment of less than 1%. Yeah, Belgium, the southern part, is less prosperous, and there's a French I would say, country fellow here in the room, but there is a difference in Belgium. Why? Because one region really invested into their education and innovation, and the other part did not do that enough. But do not follow all the rules, because there I always give the example of inflation. Inflation, I remember talking in our board, we have the chairman of the biggest Belgian bank. Yeah? And then they were saying about inflation. Will inflation come, yes or no? Inflation, no, there will be no inflation. Yeah? Then they say, yeah, there's no inflation, but there might come some inflation. But don't worry, it will not be high. Then, after 2 months, yes, there will be inflation, but it will not be high. Yeah, but it won't last long. And then, inflation is there, yeah, but it's not going to last long. And now they say it's there, it's going to be high, and maybe it's going to last longer than we think. What I mean by that is that old rules, looking with your old glasses to the economy, to the world, is not working, because the unpredictability is so high. Yeah? It can be geopolitical, it can be a virus. Who expected the virus? Nobody. Yes, the scientists knew that something would come, yeah, at one time, but who could have imagined it? And previous speakers said that. Who could have imagined the impact that would have on our society? So this resilience, this capacity of coping with these change and unpredictability is important. And one of the things we do is we work with, previously we would work with forecasts. Now we're working more and more with scenarios. Of course, you need the tools to work with scenarios. Like this bank I was talking about, they were working with 35 different scenarios, I think, or 27, sorry. We work with 2 or 3 scenarios and then see what happens and make sure we are. Things we use as well, and that's something I can advise everybody, is trends. Look at trends. Because on the other hand, innovations, new things, usually take 5 to 7 years before they come to maturity. A guy doing something, starting a company, making something new, and 6 months later, he's the star. Don't believe it, it takes time. Yeah? 3 to 5, 7 years, whatever. And so what we do is we use, and this is an example of our transport divisions, where we say, okay, what are key trends? Yeah? multimodal transport, data processing, hardware-agnostic software, third-party integration, because technology is integrating. That's a key thing. Safety, predictive maintenance, train operating companies as decision makers, cybersecurity, huge, huge, huge thing. Yeah. So these things we look, and then we say, okay, we use roadmaps, and you see above there, markets, okay, timing. So what is going to happen? What do we expect in our markets? What products do we need? Then what technology do we need? What R&D programs will be start? What resources do we need to achieve all these things? That's a very powerful tool that I would advise to everybody. We do ideation sessions. We do, that I talked about, innovation networks, ecosystems, and that's with partners in universities where we do research programs. Government in Belgium and in Flanders is financing a lot. Europe is financing a lot, but also with other companies, with suppliers. Do you know that 50% of your innovation comes from your suppliers? So use your supplier base. It's important, yeah? But ecosystem with other companies that are, because like I said, technology is integrating. And sometimes I see companies that, for example, active in packaging and they start digitization processes. They hire software engineers. I say, don't do that. Stick to your core. Yeah, and that's what here. Innovate according to your DNA strategy. Stick to your core. Innovate in your core. That's a key message. Yeah? And look for other partners for those things that are not in your core. So a couple of things what we do. For example, on innovation, from 5 years ago, we had 27 patents. Now we have more than 101. We have machine learning clubs. What we do is across the different divisions, we take a couple of young people and that have AI expertise, and then we say, okay, guys, you can experiment. So they can do that one day, not fully 1 day a week, let's say 1 day every 2 weeks. And they come up with ideas, and we already have a couple of things that we can use in our roadmaps. And in new products, also in education, where we will come up with some nice stuff. It's not always about product innovation, remember that. SMEs, smaller companies, normally are very good at product innovation, but there's also business model innovation. There's other types of innovation that you should look at, because the world is indeed changing. And then innovation, I think in SMEs, and in all companies, I think leadership is also a key thing. Is how do you deal as a leader with the changing environment? And I say there's a leadership dilemma, because there's a very high pressure on us. Because at one hand, you need to keep your business running. And keeping your business running nowadays, everybody knows it's difficult. You have this crisis, you have customers complaining, you have this and that. And on the other hand, you know, because with everything we said, the world's going to look very different in 5 years from now. So you need to transform your business. Yeah? So it's like keeping two balls at the same time. And it's not an easy thing. And then, of course, you have the changing leadership styles according to the world, the old traditional, hierarchical, the boss says and everybody follows. I think that's a bit over. It's about impact, about influence others without having formal authority over them. It's a hyper-connected environment that I said. Those who are able to connect, to form ecosystems, are the winners of tomorrow. Yeah? It's really important. Agility, what I say. So people and talent is a key thing. I don't need to explain that to you. We do a lot of efforts on our employer brand. That's where we, also during COVID, where we invested a lot of money. And why? Because in this transforming industry, with these new things that the market, customers, and so on and so forth are asking from us, I think we underrate that the capabilities you need. If you say tomorrow, I want to become digital, I wish you a lot of success. If you don't have the right capabilities in your company, if you don't hire the right people, you will never succeed, because it's going to take you way too long. And in comparison with certain competitors, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I think you need to train, yeah, but it's also on a macro level. That's what we do here in Ghana. But in your company, if you are transforming, make sure you have the right people. We made a couple of mistakes in Televic as well, where we had certain divisions where we needed to change our strategy because the market was evolving, and we forgot about that people. You as a leader, you think about it and you see the way, but don't be the general that walks alone in front of its troop. Make sure they follow, they have the capacities, and there sometimes The only way is to hire external people that bring that knowledge to your company. And then hire, develop, retain. I think, okay, that's key, because that's your know-how. And the enemy is, of course, bureaucracy, hierarchy, and fear for innovation. And last but not least, and I didn't put any text here, but you can see it, it's all about the money. It's money. When I asked recently, and the previous speaker comes with a bunch of money, so I would say take advantage of it. When I was asking one of the top professors on innovation, and he's teaching in MIT and so on and so forth, and I said, what is the most important thing on innovation and creating startups? And he said, money, money. Yeah, if you look at Silicon Valley, you have the triple helix. Yeah, there's lots of money for this. Excuse me, the word for the stupid idea, you can get up to $1 million funding, yeah, because there's so much money there, and they're successful, quite successful at it. Money, but also money in your company. There's no bigger pain than money pain in your company. And there, of course, the thing is, keep your cost as variable as possible. If something happens, that you quickly can scale up or downscale. If you have a lot of fixed costs, that's, I think, in this world, quite a dangerous thing. Yeah? So money makes the world turn around, I sometimes say, but it's sometimes underestimated. So the conclusion is always, I say, two things: doing the right things. That's your strategy. Know what you're doing, focus on what you're doing. And then doing things right, that's execution. And sometimes we entrepreneurs, certainly the more innovative ones, forget about that, because we have this idea and then we say, okay, yeah, it's done, and the market will come to us. No, there's a lot of execution. Execution is key, yeah, if you really want to be successful. Yeah? So doing the right things and then doing things right. Thank you.